Well, many landscape designers find that including images in the presentation of their design work adds to the clarity of communication between the designer and the client. Here's one in the US for some planting along a path that runs through a flood-prone area. And what I want to do, illustrate a couple of things about handling images in the gCADPlus environment. Well, the first thing to remember is that images are placed easily via the Draw drop-down menu and then Raster Image, inserting it in that way, or you can go to Format and Images and add them here. You can add and browse and so on. But an image file is an entity. If we select this one, it has in the Properties box the statement that it's an entity. It has a scale and rotation angle and so on. There's normally not much need to change any of those, but because the images are entities, you can use some of the lineup tools that might be useful. So we can go to Modify and we can align objects. And we're asked first to select the objects. So let's pick this one. And you'll notice I picked the text that was there. And we'll grab that one and the text that's within it. And that one, but we'll miss it. We've also grabbed the lower one, and I'll leave the leader label just for the moment. If I hit Enter, I've got a series of options down there in the command line, and in our case we would want to right justify it. So I type R for right justify, and we can pick any one of the entities, but let's just pick the grip that's on the left and move down. They're lined up reasonably well, but let's have them all nicely done, and you would have seen everything jump to the left-hand side. So the images are now lined up. They're not identical. They're not left justified. You could spend a lot of time in organising that, but I'd prefer to line them all up. In this case, right justify, and then perhaps left justify the ones on the right-hand side. You can see this is not finished as yet. The next thing to note is that the designer who's sent me this design is using the line entity to draw a line between the symbol that is used for coordinates, and it's just a line, so he's kept polar on, so the lines are all horizontal. But the text is not attached to that line, and what I wanted to illustrate is that you can use leaders to help you, and here's an example of that. But you can see here we have a photo and then a piece of text, and he has changed the colour of the text so it stands up over the dark background. But if you're playing with images like this, you're going to add to your drafting, I think, if you need to change colours to match the image. So what I've done here is I've used the leader, and let me pick that leader there, and I've put the piece of text in there, and I've not put any text over the top of the image. So it gives us great flexibility, and in this case we can move like so. I try and avoid leaders that cross over other leaders, so it's important to put the information in as neatly and correctly as you can. So I'll just move that back. But the point that I'm making is if you use a leader like this, you could just move the leader up here, so we have an almost straight, and then we could move this down, and we've got, and now our leader. The point I'm trying to make is that we have great flexibility in where we put our information. Well, we need some heavy planting of acorns down in this area here, so let's try it using our leader rather than just with lines. I will look quickly at the dimension style and list. Remember, we were working on standard. And if we go to geometry, what I've done is choose in the leader itself, I've got no end to it. So it's in fact just a line mimicking the way that it was done. So let's put a leader in, and this is the group we're interested in, and we can put in the text and now move our photograph over here, position it the way we want. Then we've got all sorts of control here, so we can either extend that line out, move that one down like so. I know I'm exaggerating things, but can you see the flexibility that the leader option gives us? I'd like to move a little further over here. And the other thing you can do is change your leader style entirely. Here I've changed the colour of the leader line, and I've gone, let me go to dimensions again, and dimension style list. I've got one called red blob, and the leader there, in the geometry there, the leader, I've chosen a small dot. So that gives us a different way of connecting the information by Burnham-Newton to the symbol, and unfortunately we don't yet have the ability to colour the dot and leave the line as a dark line. If we wanted to change things, we have to go dimension style and list to make sure we're working on that one, and we go into geometry and we change away back to by layer, and then the red blob. Let me just, it did not update quickly. Let me just put that one in again. And we change from standard to red blob, and there we are, we now get a black blob. So I can't change those on the fly and get them to all update. So you really need to make your decision about how you want to label things. The red does stand out. I think its colour to me is a little too intense. So let's just see if we can soften it a bit by going back to here, go to to geometry, and we'll choose, in fact there's no real reason why we couldn't choose one of the very soft, maybe even a light grey, and do that. And that to me looks rather nice. Could it even be a slightly darker colour? So I guess the plea is to play around with the leader option in labelling whatever you want to label in designs.